Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. Hope everybody's doing well today. I can't talk. I was thinking about the microphone. Let me know if the mic is correct. I'm pretty sure it's good today, but let me know if that's okay, first off, and hope everybody's doing good today. So we are going to continue our experiments adding fillers to resin. I know we've been doing a lot of this stuff, but it is kind of fun. Hopefully it's helpful, useful, interesting for you guys. Like I said, I mean, we've kind of talked about a lot of the different things that we've used so far. And I mean, are we going to be using this a lot? Probably not. You know, it's not like you're going to pull this out every time you pull blanks out. However, you know, we may stumble upon something that is pretty cool. And in at least certain circumstances, or if you're trying to accomplish something, it might be useful. So far we've played with, let's see, what all have we played with? Last time we did the micro balloons. I'm going to chalk that one up to, I don't think many people should or are going to be using that for anything. If you need something buoyant, that is what that would be probably used for. But it's pretty expensive stuff, I think. I had all this stuff in the shop, so I don't exactly know how much, you know, a jug of micro balloons costs. But I think that stuff is a little bit more on the expensive side. And like I said, the only real property that I think that it could be useful in certain circumstances, I know a lot of people cast fishing lures. That would be why you would use it. You want something to float. And you would probably have to load up quite a bit of it. I don't know, you'd have to do experiments. We didn't really test the buoyancy, but it definitely made it lighter, and supposedly they're little spheres, right? So there's probably going to be air. They're tiny, tiny little things, but if it is a sphere and you've got air in there, bare minimum, there's going to be, the way that they work in the resin, they're going to be kind of bumping up against each other. And I think eventually if you put enough of it in there, it's going to make the casting buoyant. I don't really see that it didn't do anything for, you know, it had no effect really on turning or anything like that. I don't see the point in using it. Unless you want a lighter pen, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I didn't really see a whole lot of use out of that. The cornstarch or talc, that could be useful. You could add that as a filler. You could use your transparent dyes from Alumilite and get opaque blanks. The material felt a little softer. So there's like a few, you know, things that could be useful with the cornstarch. Which I think is maybe easier to pick up, possibly. I don't know. Talc is pretty easy too, and I don't think it's very expensive. You could buy a lot of it. And one of the big things is technically you could add talc and then reduce the amount of resin that you're using if you wanted to save some money. I don't know. I didn't actually sit down and do a cost-benefit analysis or anything like that, but it could be useful. You know, I don't know. And the one pen that we made was pretty cool looking. It changed things. It kind of dulled the colors down, made it different, let's say. So that was kind of cool. But today what we're going to do is we're going to try marble powder, which I think could be cool. And this stuff feels heavy. We'd have to look at like the amount of volume that's in this thing compared to this thing. It says how much is in there, but I don't trust these numbers. So marble powder, and then we got porcelain powder. And so, you know, this is going to be adding almost like a rock kind of thing in there. I have a feeling that the pen is going to be colder to the touch. It's going to feel more like stone. So there could be some uses for this, where, you know, if you're going for that. Now, it's probably going to make your pen pretty heavy, but, you know, you can call it a marble pen. So what we're going to do today, what I want to do, you know, a lot of this stuff, I have a very singular purpose for doing this personally, but I also just want to see, I haven't used this stuff. So I want to see what the, you know, working characteristics are of this. What does it actually do when you're casting? How does it turn? Are there problems? Are there benefits? You know, but I want to see if adding some sort of a filler will help with color bleed in certain circumstances. Now, again, I want to mention, for the most part, when you're using the opaque pigments, typically, now I want to also disclaimer, because somebody actually emailed me and they were saying, oh, I've been trying to use these opaque pigments and it just falls to the bottom, or I'm having issues. You have to pour at the right temperature, okay? And that's the way it is. Even if you're using mica powders, you got to wait a little bit, otherwise it's going to bleed. And that's just a matter of waiting for the right viscosity of the resin. But in general, if you're pouring at the right temperature, these things don't really bleed that much. They're not terrible. Now, liquid pigments are going to bleed. They're going to have the tendency to bleed more than mica powder. Mica powder is a pretty big chunk of color. This is a little bit smaller, and then when you get down to the transparent, dyes and stuff, they can be a little bit even more bleedy in some cases, sometimes. But if you're pouring at the right temperature, generally these things work really well and they don't really bleed. But yellow and blue, terrible. I don't think there is a way. Actually, I was talking to Chad the other day. Is Chad in the chat? Chad and I were talking the other day, and he was like, "Oh, I think it's kind of cool that you're doing these experiments." We were just chatting back and forth. And I mentioned the blue and yellow thing, and he's like, "Yeah, I've never been able to cast those without it turning green." And I was like, I think you can buy blue and yellow acrylic, like the actual acrylic acetate, the ones that we all hate to turn because they just blow up. And I actually went online, and I'm like, I'm going to look it up and see what, if there's pictures of these. Literally, Rockler's selling a blue and yellow acrylic acetate blank that has green in it. And I'm like, I don't even think it's possible. Like, I think I might be chasing my tail on this one, but it's worth trying out, seeing what we can do. Let's see here. So we got our couple different things here. What I want to do, I don't want to make an entire batch of blue and yellow blanks because I've been just wasting blanks. Like I'm pretty sure they're not going to work right. So what we're going to do with the blue and yellow test, we're just going to make a couple blanks, pour them, swirl them up, and I think we're going to do like one blank each for each powder. Hopefully I'll remember to label them correctly. And then that's it. And then we're going to get that in the pressure pot and move on. And then my problem is I think that we could do some really cool stuff with the marble powder. We tried making the marble blanks before, and we just used, a little bit of like kind of a grayish color with the white. And we got some really good looking blanks without having to make it like marble powdered or anything like that. I'm thinking we should throw some marble powder in and try to mimic the marble look. I think that would be kind of cool. Then you could, like I said, this would be a little bit harder to market online, but if somebody was picking up pens and they picked up this thing that was like a tank in their hand and that's what they like, and the feel of it like really felt like stone and it looked like marble, I think there's, people would be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Porcelain, similar thing. I don't know. I say we go for different colors with this stuff and then shoot for like a marble look on with the marble powder. So let's scroll back up to the top. We got Mike McEwen's up here, Michael DeQuattro. Celebrate 5 birthdays, wow. Well, hopefully you can watch the replay later, but have fun at the birthday parties. And we got Vinny here, Jennifer, Bruce is here. And I'm kind of bummed, guys. I remembered one thing, but so I won, well, technically I won my own ornament in the auction, so I didn't bring that, but I won 3 other ornaments in the ornament auctions, and I was going to bring them and show you guys what I won, and I totally forgot to bring the ones that were actual ornaments. We actually hung on our tree, and I forgot to bring them out to the shop. But I did bring one that I'm very excited about, so I'm going to show you guys this one real quick. So this was made by, I can't think of your name, good Lord. Homerlex. Mike Lexa. So I won, and I actually won one of his things last year. He made a bell and a pen, and actually I have the pen from last year in the shop. I keep it here. The bell we kept at home, and like literally we didn't even take it down with like the Christmas stuff. It's so cool. So last year I won a pen and a bell. So this was the pen that I won, and then a bell, and it had, I don't know if you guys saw the bells that he made this year, but they have like chunks of resin, like dots. They look kind of like a solar system type thing. Really cool ornament. But this year, I won this. Check this thing out. So I was just intrigued by this. And frankly, it should have gone for more than I won it for, I think. Because this thing, look at all this. Look at all this stuff. So it's got a roll stop. It's hard to get on the camera here. It's got a roll stop, kind of a star type thing. it's got a star embedded in the resin. I don't even know how he made this thing. Like, I make pen blanks. I have no clue what's going on in here. I can't get it to focus very well. There we go. Look at that. And then on the bottom, there's a tree embedded. And then look at those colors. If that doesn't scream Christmas, I don't know what does. And one of the things that I'm pretty excited about, I don't own any handmade, you know, like the custom pen roller balls. They're all fountain pens that I own. And so I was like super stoked about this. And oh man, the threads are just butter smooth. Very nice, awesome work. I'm very happy to have won this, and I guess I really kind of pissed off Carrie over at Turner's Warehouse. Last year, we bid on basically the same ornaments and stuff, same auctions, and I beat her last year, and I beat her this year too. So she's mad at me, but anyway, awesome work. And then I won. I don't know who made it. I won another light up, like an icicle type ornament, and I won one of the like Christmas light bulb ornaments. Scott Kershaw made it. I thought it was the best looking because there was quite a few of the light bulb ornaments, and I really liked his. It's like a hybrid with wood for like the back part, and then obviously the resin is the like bulb itself, and it's got a little light. I don't know where these little light things. There's tons of these light up type things that are like a little LED light or something like that with batteries, and so you can turn it on. I was like, sweet, I want to win that. So I got that one and the icicle. So it was pretty awesome. This was another good year with the auctions. It was really tough to figure out what to bid on. At one point, I ended up having so many bids out that I'm like, man, this is gonna max out the credit card on these things. Luckily, other people outbid me on some of them. So Christmas magic, it is. It's awesome. Yeah, thank you for making that. And like I said, I really feel like that thing should have gone for even more. Like if that was sitting, I was looking at that pen, and it's even more impressive when you actually see it in person. I was just thinking, like, if that was sitting at a pen show, I mean, granted, like the way that selling pens works, some people, because they're good salesmen or they just have a good network and they know how to market to the right people. But I mean, I'm not joking. Like, I seriously think that the right salesman at a pen show could easily sell that for like $1,000. Like, and people wouldn't even like bat an eye. So I felt pretty lucky to win that. So anyway, let's see here. I stopped. Actually, well, so Mike's here. Bruce is here. David. Let's see here. I might have missed a few people because I don't know where I stopped. Kid Cooper's in the house. What's up, man? Frederick's here. Mark. Oh, you got the other bell? No, yeah, the bells are sweet. I want to make a bell. It's just a really cool turning anyway. Oh, you got so you won the, let's see, they're casting with the foil pieces. That's not mine. Did you win my tree? The other one? I can't remember. Because I didn't put any... Oh, the tinsel pieces? Is that what you were talking about? I'm not sure if I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Anyway, so first things first. Let's knock out the blue and yellow mixtures first. Get them out of the way and just see if this... again, I really don't think that the color bleed thing is... I don't think we're going to fix that. Now, there is one more... there's one... So we're almost done with the fillers, at least that I can think of. There's, you know, honestly, you could put all kinds of stuff. I mean, we could sit here and pull out like flour and arrowroot, whatever stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's like baking products that you could put in here. I mean, you could put like sawdust. Like there's all kinds of stuff that we could put in here. These are things that are either, you know, most of these I actually got from Alumilite itself, like the porcelain powders from Alumilite, the micro balloons were. This is meant for casting. They call it cold casting, and it's for kind of marketed for resin casting stuff. So a lot of these things that I'm using are actually like within the realm of casting, resin casting stuff. Like I said, you could try all kinds of other different types of things, but there's one more product that I want to try after this, and I'm not sure I think what I'm going to do is do a little experiment on my own to see what goes on. because this is getting a little bit, you know, not much is changing with all these things. And this next one, I don't, we'll see. I'm just kind of I'm getting a little bored with it too myself. There's one more called fumed silica that I want to try out. And I might just do a quick experiment and then share the results, like make like 1 or 2 pen blanks or something like that. See what it's like and if there's anything different. The thing is, I really don't think it's going to be much different than like micro balloons or any of that stuff. But if it is magically amazing, then I will, you know, share, and we can probably do some stuff with it on the stream. Okay, so let's do the blue and yellow. And that's really the biggest problem one, blue and yellow. Orange and blue can be a little bit shaky. You gotta really kind of try not to stir it up too much and all that kind of stuff. It can cause, and what ends up happening with that one is you get just like kind of brown. And if you pull a color wheel out, you'll know which colors could cause issues. Basically on the color wheel, things that are opposite, if you mix them, green and red, it's going to turn brown. If you mix, you know, yellow and purple, it's going to turn brown. If you mix, you know, orange and blue, for the most part, and again, these are opposite on the color wheel. Opposites are going to turn brown, basically. So you can understand, you know, what's going on. Now, blue and yellow doesn't turn brown, but it's one of those mixtures that you end up blending and you get the green in the middle. And that can be okay, but, you know, out of all the colors, you know, I'm sure that they all kind of bleed, especially if you've got really thin strands that you've kind of mixed together. They probably all kind of bleed a little bit, just like a tiny bit, but it's just not as noticeable when that happens. But between yellow and blue, it's like smacks you in the face, and you're like, oh, there's green in that. And of course, like I said, we don't want that for Michigan or, you know, any other team color like that. Berkeley, Michigan, I think, is the worst because their you know in-state rival is Michigan State, who is green. And so you just don't want that. So let's see here. Oh, you got the hybrid tree. Nice. Yeah, the tinsel glitter is fun. I like that. And then yellow and purple is another one that tends to kind of pop out at you. And again, it's kind of like you get a little bit of a brown. Not so bad though. If you're just kind of more careful, maybe extend, you know, wait just a little bit longer before you pour, and then don't try to super mix it up or, you know, pour really hard, let's say, like, you know. And I would actually say like thin amounts, like if you're pouring very small amounts on each time and then try and stir it up, that's where you're going to get kind of bleed. So it's better if you kind of pour larger amounts per pour as you're filling up your tube. Pour a little bit bigger amount. That way there's less areas where it's really going to bleed together, hopefully. That's kind of the idea. And it just won't be as noticeable. But blue and yellow is just pretty much, you can't do it. So, all right, so let's switch to the overhead view. I'm going to pull out a couple of just PVC pipes for this. And we'll pull out I don't use PVC pipes a whole lot anymore, but if you do PVC pipe casting, which, you know, honestly, PVC pipes are the most economical way to pour vertically. You know, silicone molds, they cost a lot and they're gonna eventually wear out. And in fact, one thing I want to mention I hadn't been using these for that long, I guess, but I've got one of these molds. This thing, I don't know if you can see the difference in the top, but this one, it's like more white and it's actually turning opaque, and like the top surface is like kind of hard. So it's wearing out at the top. Now I can still cast in it, it's fine. It's not like the blanks are even really getting stuck per se, but I really have to work the tops loose to get them out. So this mold I'm gonna have to replace. I'm actually gonna make a new one today. But what I found is, as your mold, originally I was like, oh, these things are great because you can put a light behind them. But as they get older, they're less transparent or less translucent, let's say. And so light doesn't go through them as easy as they get older. So silicone, you know, they're great. I like how easy and quick they are. I don't use mold release or anything like that either. That was one of the things with PVC pipes. You have to use mold release on these things, or else your blanks are going to get stuck. But these wear out faster. This is much cheaper up front, and they do wear out eventually, and sometimes they can bend, which that's one of the things I really don't like about PVC pipes. Typically, your silicone molds will do pretty well. I'm trying to think if there's not really any other option. Technically, you could use metal pipes, and this is actually something that I've never tried before, but I am curious to look into that, because basically I don't think they're ever going to, go bad. You're not going to have to replace them. They're not going to bend. What ends up happening with the PVC pipes, especially if you're casting with not as much with Alumilite Clear Slow, the slow version, but if you're using regular Alumilite Clear or any epoxy, basically most of your standard resins heat up higher than Alumilite Clear Slow. It doesn't get as hot when it's curing, but that heat can kind of deform your PVC pipes, and it also wears harder on anything, on your silicone molds, PVC pipes, or HDPE even. So that's another advantage to Alumilite Clear Slow. One of the reasons I like using it is it's less hard on molds overall, but eventually it will still wear out your silicone molds even, and HDPE too. But metal, I mean, it should never wear out, I don't think. You may need to resurface the inside somehow. That's my biggest question is, can I get a PVC pipe, or a metal pipe that the inside walls are polished? And I'm sure that I guess I could do that myself. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun though. But if you could just buy them that way, that would be pretty cool, and they would last forever. But I think your upfront costs would probably be significant on that. So I don't know, and I don't even know what to use or whatever. But anyway, let's go for some overhead view here. So let me get my book out. First thing I need to do is spray these with mold release. I'm going to go do that over here behind the camera and spray it in an area that I don't really care where this stuff goes. And I'm covering, I just want to get a decent coating. I don't want it dripping out of there. One other thing that you need to think about with this is an aerosol can, right? And so if you just hold this down wide open, you'll notice that it starts getting very cold. And so you could run into problems if this stuff kind of gets cold, which actually, I don't know if you can see on the bottom of that, there's a little bit of an overspray there, and it's cool to the touch, the pipe is. So one thing that you might want to kind of think about is don't just hold the thing down and just be like, shh, because it's going to just keep getting colder and colder. So that's why I'm triggering it a little bit, and you just need to coat, the inside wall. So make sure you're doing it like that, I guess. I don't know. Just a couple thoughts to think about. And so anyway, what I was going to say is these Turner's Warehouse plugs are amazing. So if you're doing PVC pipe casting, these things are great. They fit perfectly. They don't come out or anything like that. They're flat. They don't make weird shapes on the bottom that you got to cut off. The one thing I will say is you will have kind of a ring at the bottom of the base of your blank that's kind of sharp. So just be aware of that. You might want to knock that down. Maybe hit it with a sander or something like that. But other than that, all right, so I'm going to write on this right away which one's which. I'm going to just wipe this down with a little bit of acetone so the Sharpie will actually write on there. So we're going to do porcelain on this side. Hard to write on round things. porcelain. This one is marble. Okay. PVC pipes are nice because you can write on them, and there's a lot of advantages to PVC, but I kind of personally prefer silicone myself. Now, one thing is you probably, and it probably even says on this, does it say? Surprised it doesn't say anything. You probably want to wear a mask when you're dumping this stuff out. Because like even on this thing, warning, do not take internally, wear dust mask. You don't want to be breathing the dust that comes out of this stuff. Because it's probably pretty like sharp, abrasive stuff. Which if it gets in your lungs could cause some health risks. I seriously, you know, for the amount that you're going to be doing this, probably not that big of a deal for like long term, but in the short term, it could cause like a respiratory illness short term. And over the long term, if you're using it a lot, then definitely, I would say that it's probably even, I don't know. I don't know if it's just worse, you know, I don't know if I would say that it's worse than like just normal sawdust necessarily, especially like the super fine particles. The problem with the sawdust thing is the particles just never leave your lungs. The super small things, those are the dangerous ones. So I don't know exactly how this works, but I'm going to put a mask on. So I just pulled out my RZ mask. So I might be a little bit muffled, but I think it's worth, well, I don't need it right now because we're going to write some notes. That's why I like the RZ mask. On and off, easy, quick. All right, let's get going here. And I'm kind of bummed. I got my lathe buddy, you know, the little thing that you can, it's like a terry cloth that absorbs water when you're doing like wet sanding on the lathe. I got them, they were delivered, but they were in the mailbox and we didn't check the mailbox and I totally forgot to bring it when I left. So, but I should be using them next week when we turn these guys down. So this is the 14th. We're doing marble and porcelain. All right, so number 1, bleed test. Yellow and blue. So offhand, I don't know how much resin. I want to say like 50 or 60 grams per tube for like about a 6-inch blank. Let's just go with 50. It doesn't really matter if it's perfectly 5.5 or whatever. So we need 100 grams or so total. I might mix up just a little bit more than that. And then we need blue and yellow. So let's see here. Do I have any yellow? I do. Okay, so we got our navy blue and we got our yellow right there. And I'm going to put in, let's see here. So we're going to do 50 grams of blue, 50 grams of yellow. And I'm going to use my navy blue. We're going to put in, let's just put in a gram. That should probably be plenty. And then yellow, 1 gram. And so what I'm going to do is we're gonna you know, pour these like I normally would for the you know, like in the Gatling mold or whatever for a normal pen blank. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to use my regular stir stick, stir it up and see what happens. Another way that could reduce the color bleed is to just not stir it up. But again, I don't really want to do 50,000 tests. I think, I don't know. It might actually be smarter. Does anybody remember if we did the stirring on the last? Let's see. Let's see if I wrote it. I don't know. No, we did not do the stir on the. Oh, that was the split cup. Where's the other? Oh, here we go. Baby powder. We did the stick. The flat end on that one. Micro balloons. I used the regular stick on the micro balloons. So that's one thing that I haven't really kept. Split cup. Well, I guess for the most part I've been, well. Marble. I think if we use the stir stick, I'm pretty sure we're pretty much guaranteed to get color bleed. Let's not do the stir stick this time and just see what results we get, because we haven't really done that. The only test we did that with was the split cup where we just poured it, and that actually worked pretty well. That was the least amount of bleed I've ever seen with yellow and blue, but you got kind of a 50-50 blank. So let's just do no stick, no stir. And then I'll just kind of pour back and forth, and we'll just kind of see what we get. How about that? Let's see here. Is anybody saying? Yeah, long-term exposure would probably be worse than this. Well, I don't know. Oh, silicosis. Yeah, I don't know. It's not good. Wear a mask. I don't do anything to choy, just dry it out. Yeah, I mean, you'll want to clean it if they didn't do that. Like get all the little bark and stuff that might come off of it, but other than that, the main thing, and this goes for anything that's like an organic material or I don't know, anything, wood. Every single time you cast something like that, you're going to have to dry it out. So that's just kind of a given. But I don't stabilize it or do anything to it. It's so dense that it's not going to take on the stabilizing resin anyway. So not really worth the time. Let's see, 50 grams. I'm going to get, let's see, I'm just going to do these cups. That'll work good. Okay. Dang, I need to order resin again. It's been like a string, like for like a month straight, it's been like a string of obviously not planning too much ahead, but also I don't know what people are going to order in certain cases. And so like, I've had to put like an order in every single week for a month with Alumilite with different products. I'm like, oh, now I need silicone. Oh, now I need epoxy. Oh, now I need, they're like, what? Can you just order it all at once? I'm going to do like, I guess I don't need to do that. Well, we're going to have a little bit extra. So about 52. I don't think I need extra, but it's okay. We're good. 52, we'll do 52 of the part B. I'm going to have to get another jug out. And actually, we are adding filler to this. So it's probably going to actually net us more. Let's see. So, I'm going to need 4 cups actually. So I am going to need, okay, so we're good. Let me think about what I'm doing here. Because we need a yellow and a blue for each of the powders. I'm actually going to write on this P for porcelain. And I'm going to put M for marble, just so I don't mix any of this stuff up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this up in this main cup. Then then I got to dump off half, put porcelain in one and put marble in the other. This is kind of complicated, but we only have 2 pen blanks, so it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to put marble powder in this one. I'm going to put porcelain powder in this one. I don't know if this is, yeah, this should work. This should be okay. All right, so I'm going to mix this up, and I'm not going to forget to put my mask back on. I don't need it yet because I'm not opening the things yet, but and one other thing about choya, it doesn't take that long, like compared to like a solid piece of wood or something like that. Choya doesn't take that long to dry out either. It kind of depends on how wet it is to start out, but generally, I mean, again, compared to like a piece of wood, about the same kind of dimensions as that, it's going to dry out a lot faster. So that's nice. All right, so I'm going to put 50 grams in this thing. Or so, about 51. All right, so now I got to get my mask on here. Put that on. I might just put some glasses on just in case, I don't know. Probably don't want it in your eyes either. Now, the question is, how much are we going to put in here, I guess? I'm going to do it by weight, I think. This stuff is significantly heavier than the cornstarch was, or the microbloons or any of that stuff. So we did like 50% of the weight or so. Let's try that. Let's try 25 grams to start and just see what happens. I'm also going to use one of these spoons to kind of see how many teaspoons this actually turns out to be. So here's the porcelain powder. It kind of looks like the cornstarch. I mean, there's not much going on here. It's just like chalk almost. So let's see how much that is. That's 4. It's pretty fine powder. Let's go to like, I want to see what, we're at 15 right now. Let's just kind of see what this is looking like. We also don't really want to overdo it necessarily, but that's very similar, except a little bit crunchier around as I'm kind of scrapier. But it's very reminiscent of the cornstarch, I would say. So let's go to 25. It wasn't super thick. So we're at 27. Let's see where that is. It's probably going to be in the ballpark here. And so again, one thing that I didn't really factor in, this is going to increase the volume of the resin. So you probably don't need to mix as much as you would have normally. So if this does take 50 grams of resin, if there's just resin and dye in it, I could probably reduce the amount of actual resin that I mix up and the powder, and still fill this thing. Like, I'm going to have a lot of excess, I think. Let's see. So that's pretty good. It's definitely opaque. I mean, I could keep adding more, I guess, but once it starts heating up and thickening up on its own, the resin, I think this stuff's going to be pretty thick. So let's just keep it there. We added 27 grams. And I have a feeling the marble's going to probably kind of go the same way. So let's close this guy up. And it wasn't super dusty in my face. This one may be just because it's a bag instead of that container. I don't know. So let's see how we're doing. We'll add the 15 grams first. Yeah, this is very similar. So that's 6 grams, 6.5 or so per half teaspoon. So it does seem to be a little bit heavier than porcelain. So I'm already at 18. I'm going to stir this up and just kind of see what we're looking like. Oh, that's really crunchy. This stuff might be kind of a bear to turn and cut. That feels like sand in there. Like sandpaper. It's not really making it particularly thick though. Let's go to 27 and see where we're at, or about 27 or 30. Very crunchy. Oh man. Yeah, these might be some crazy happy fun burls. This, you know, as like a filler, like it's not as opaque, number one. It's not, doesn't seem as thick either. Like this is much thicker, the porcelain powder. This stuff is pretty thin, honestly. I'm gonna add more because like it's not even doing what, it's not really thickening the stuff up yet. Not significantly, at least. I'm gonna put 1-to-1 in here. We're gonna put 50 grams and just see what that does. There we go. Now it's starting to thicken up. That's much thicker. But you know, think about that. You got to put a lot in there to get it thickening up. I would say this may be a little bit thicker than the porcelain at this point. All right, so I'm going to call that good. Maybe didn't have to go that far, but let's see here. We need about 25. I don't know if this is actually going to work out the way that I think. I'm going to put 30 grams in here and hope that works in each one. Oh, did I do that right? Yeah, porcelain. Let's see if I did this right. I can kind of, what I want to do is split this 50-50. So let's go to 32. I think I could go 33, 34, 33. 35. We don't need more than that, so I don't really care if we're, well, the weight and the volume at this point is different, so I don't know. We should have plenty, I think. And we'll do marble. Yeah, that's a little bit on the thicker side of things. There's probably more weight to this stuff, so I'm going to go to 40 something, 42. I think I could do probably 50 grams. Again, I don't know how the volume works out with the weight. I don't want to just put 25 grams in here because it may just be heavier. Okay, well 40. All right, well we're close, 45 and 50. Now I'm gonna put, let's see here, in each cup, let's see, 25. Yeah, so we're gonna put 1 gram in each one of these cups. .9 is close enough. I don't even think we actually need as much because this stuff's opaque, you know. We probably don't need that much. Now, the more you put in there, the more saturated the color is going to be. That's the one thing, but I don't think to get color, like started, let's say, I don't think you need to put the same amount as you would put in to get a, you know, an opaque blank with none of this filler stuff in it. Zero that out and go to 0.9. This is quite a bit of dye. Probably, like I said, probably pretty unnecessary, but I don't know. So we're just going to do it. So we got M. I'll just use this stick here. So very saturated. Like it just, the marble just takes on that blue. Yeah, honestly, you could probably get away with like a few drops. I just, you know, I should have done a little bit of an experiment there. Didn't think about it. Same with the porcelain. The porcelain's making it a little bit lighter. So it's definitely having an effect. Let me put these next to each other. The marble is definitely more saturated color. It's darker than the porcelain. So that's kind of interesting. This is going to be, like I said, the porcelain really kind of had a lot of, it felt a lot like the cornstarch did. And at this point, I think I can take my mask off because we put the nasties away. Let's get a couple more cups. We'll do the yellows. This is marble. So again, kind of crunchy in there, but definitely very vibrant, I would say. It's nice and saturated color. Let's check out the porcelain then. Much more muted, dark, like kind of it flattens the color out. I don't know if you can see the difference there, but this is the marble, this is the porcelain. Definitely desaturates the color. So actually I'm glad that we put the same amount in each one because that was an interesting little thing to note. All right, so temperature. Now, we had an issue with the fillers kind of changing the temperatures. I don't know if it was totally inhibiting, like slowing down the process of the resin heating up, or if it was, you know, kind of curing at the same rate, it just for some reason was cooler. I don't know, but we did have that issue, especially with the talc. That definitely slowed things down. And I would say the marble's cooler. We did put more stuff in it, so I don't know how that factors in. Yeah, these could be, well, we'll have to see. I think the marble is probably going to be like the true stone type blanks, because like that's basically what true stone is. It's like ground up stone and resin. Same with Corian, I guess, too. That's probably the kind of the same product, really. I guess. I don't know. Does anybody know? Is that what that is? Like turning, I don't think it'll be as bad as seashells. We'll see though. I mean, that's why we're doing this, you know. That's why we're doing it. So again, we're not using a stir stick on this, which is a little bit different than the test that we did before. The only one that we did not use any stirring was when we did the split cup pour, where we took it and just poured it straight down and let the two colors kind of go side by side in the tube. We didn't stir that up. All the rest of them we did stir. And, you know, pretty much the minute you put a stir stick in there, I think you're going to get bleed. And it's really no different if you were doing, you know, like a brick mold. The minute you go in there and start messing around with it, it's going to blend those colors together. But that's what we typically is kind of what we want. Now, I'm actually finding that I'm really liking vertical pours because I can get extremely decent swirling, because that was my biggest problem. That's one of the reasons why I never did it in the past, because I knew that I could get really good swirls making square blanks, you know, pouring a square brick, but I'm already starting to do tests because eventually I want to convert my team color blanks to vertical, And I mean, that's as good, if not better. I would argue that might be better than my Team Color blanks with Alumilite white with square. So you can get excellent swirl patterns is basically my argument. And you can even get pretty decent looking blanks without even using a stir stick. It's not as good, but it's not bad, let's just say. So this is starting to heat up a little bit, I can feel. We're at like 90. Thing is, it's already pretty thick. This is the porcelain. Let's look at the marble. One of the issues is, so you might say, well, Zach, why don't you just wait until it's like 130 and it's just blobbing out of there? The problem is if it's too thick, you run the risk of getting a ton of air bubbles trapped. Even though you're going to pressurize it, it still can't fix it. If there's bubbles, the pressure will shrink the bubbles. But if there's just like gaps where it's not an actual bubble of air, it's just, the pressure pot's not going to fix that. You're just going to have gaps. So that's looking, it's kind of crazy. The porcelain is actually almost thicker at this point, and we put less in there. It's weird. I don't know. This might be heating up faster though. So we're at 93 with the porcelain. Yeah, 90 with this. So there's, oh, that one's actually, the yellow is pretty thick on both of these. Huh, interesting. 90, yeah. The blue's a little bit thinner in both of them. The yellow, that pigment must be just a little bit thicker. 89, so where are we at on this blue? 92. I think we could probably pour this and see. 93. Let's wait till 95. Like if one of the colors out of the two, we got porcelain here, we got marble here. If I can hit 95 with one of the colors, then I'm ready to pour, which it's obviously the yellow's heating up faster. And that can happen, guys. That's something to maybe point out. You might notice that, your black dye, the cup that has, like, you mixed all the resin, because we did that. We mixed all the resin at once and then split it off. And it's equal amounts in the same size cup, so nothing should change if there was no additives put in here. But you might find certain mica powders seem to accelerate certain cups. And some of them maybe, may slow it down even, possibly. So that is something that can happen, is certain colors can have an effect. So we're about 94.5. We're so close. We're on the cusp of being able to pour that one. Porcelain's heating up a little bit faster. Probably going to end up having to pour the marble a little bit earlier, maybe, than well, we're at 90 there. I would definitely say whether it's because of the marble itself or because I put more filler in, I don't know which one's causing it, but the marble's heating up slower than the porcelain. Come on, just tell me 95. Well, now it's going down. That's ridiculous. Come on, 95. Yeah, I'll just let it sit for a minute. Yeah, the vertical's pretty cool. How does crushed abalone turn? I'm pretty sure it's terrible. Anything that's a calcium carbonate, whatever, which I think I'm saying the right thing, shell material is going to be absolutely a nightmare. It's not going to be fun. And you also have to watch out that stuff, the dust off of that stuff, seashells, whether you're cutting it on like a tile saw, we got 95, or you're turning it on the lathe. Let's see here. So we got porcelain is this tube. And again, we're not going to, I'm just going to kind of go back and forth here. Boom. It's actually kind of nice that they're, this may just kind of layer more. Yeah, it's just kind of layering. Now I'm not getting any, well, there's a little bit of bleed. I think I need to do this two-handed because it's otherwise it's just gonna like layer it and we're not gonna stir it around in any way. So let's see if I can do this two-handed. You guys know that that always ends not so well, but I'm gonna get this to the edge, this one to the edge. I'm gonna turn it around. Let's just see how this goes. Oh, I'm missing the hole. Oh. It's really tough. The top of the cup hits the other side. Someone was saying, who cuts the tops? That's a brilliant idea. Cuts the tops of the cups. Someone mentioned that. It's even more messy if you do it this way. Okay, I think we're... So I didn't even fill this tube, technically. And we had a lot more weight. I'm just going to chuck these sticks. Maybe we'll come back another day. So here we go. We got the marble. It's super thick too. So let's do another 2-cup pour. I'm going to... my hands are all sticky. Don't really want to get my scissors all sticky completely, but let's see if we can cut this thing. Not too far. See how that goes. What do you guys think? I don't know if I did that good enough. So the marble went a lot farther. There was a lot more of that material, and we also put like a lot more weight in the cups. So preliminary results, I think I'm seeing green. But sometimes the outsides are not as indicative of what's actually in the middle. Yeah, just a little bit of green. This one's not too bad, actually, this marble. Still a little bit. This one, it's not terrible. I don't know. It's tough to tell. Now, again, we didn't stir this up, though. So that probably had an effect on everything. All right, so let's get these guys in the pressure pot real quick here. We'll have to see how these turn out. I'm still not holding my breath on this. I don't know. Okay. There we go. Now, one thing that I do want to also mention, so far with all the different things that we've added, one thing that I have not seen any of is like little air bubbles or pockets or any of that kind of stuff. Sometimes when you load up resin with some other powder or junk that you're like adding to it, like I was saying, you can run into issues even though you're pressurizing and it's supposed to fix the problem. There's still air pockets and things going on, and I don't fully understand like what the physics and all that stuff is. Why is that the case? Because technically it should still be just shrinking air bubbles. But like in the case of like micartas and things like that, fabrics that are saturated with resin, those can like, unless you compress it literally, like physically compress the stuff, you're probably going to get some air bubbles and things going on here and there. Not a lot, but there's still going to be some little air pockets and things. Another one is like the shredded money. If you load it up significantly and it's just like blobbing out like molasses as you're pouring it into the mold, it's pretty easy to get some air pockets and things here and there. They're not terrible, and all you got to do is fill it with CA glue, but I'd rather not have any air bubbles or pockets or whatever in my blanks. So we'll have to see how that turns out in these ones. Again, the marble was pretty heavy. I mean, it's one to one by weight, I guess, ratio. That's a little bit different probably than if it was like 1 to 1 by volume of the marble powder to the resin. I'm pretty sure we were nowhere near that. That starts to get to the point where even on these things, I think it says, yeah, so on the Alumilite porcelain, which I don't think Alumilite sells this anymore. I've had this for 10 years probably, I don't know. So I don't know if they carry this. I'm sure you can find it somewhere else. It's not that big of a deal, but on the directions it says can be mixed up to 100% by volume max is what it says. So I would say that in general, regardless of what you're putting in resin, you probably don't want to go too much further than like 1 to 1, which means like if you've got 2 cups, you got a cup of resin and you fill it to here, and then you got a cup of porcelain powder or whatever and you fill it to the same amount by volume, right? That's how that works. I got dyes and stuff all over my fingers. How did that happen? It's crazy. It's green. Why is there green? We didn't do green. Anyway, so just be aware of that. There is kind of an upper limit on things when you're adding it like that. All right, so let's go over here. We're going to do a batch of pen blanks. Let's do the marble next. Let's see. I'm going to just check and see. And I didn't get anything in the Fun Burl mold because that stuff was getting so thick that I don't think it was going to go in there too well. Yeah, I'm curious to see how these, I think the marble is going to be hard on blades, drill bits, all that kind of stuff. The porcelain, I don't know. I'm harder than, let's say, probably harder than the cornstarch and talc was, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, for abalone. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I need to go grab something real quick, guys. I'm gonna put you guys like on mute for 1 second. I need to go grab something up front. I don't want the mic to cut out and do weird stuff. I'll be right back. Okay, so I wanted to share. We got some special blanks, the candy cane style blanks. Let's put it on the overhead thing. They don't look as good right now because there is a little bit of white coating kind of on the outside. So it's kind of, some parts are kind of hard to see the red, but these things are awesome. I made a candy cane pen, like I think last year, a couple years ago. So this is all that's left, and 6 of these are already accounted for. So, and I'm not going to make any more because I only made so many 3D prints. So if you guys want to snag any of the candy canes, like I said, this is the last amount. There's probably 12 total left. So let me drop a link for you guys if you want to pick any of these guys up. This will be the kind of last chance. There we go. And since we're talking about the abalone blanks, I'll just drop a link to those too. They're pretty good, the abalone. A lot of people make abalone. I don't know. I kind of feel like I might have been the first to kind of figure that out. I don't care either way. I definitely didn't get the idea from someone else, but other people might have been making something similar before me. But I'm pretty happy with those things. They turned out pretty good, and they do. Let's see. I don't think I have an abalone blank pen that's like finished. No. I should have one of those because I really like them. I think I have some at home. I just don't have one in the shop here. So pretty good one though. I think another way that you can go for abalone, depending on what type of pen you're making, is actual abalone strips that are basically like glued to your tube. That's another way, but that way you're not turning the actual abalone. Yeah, I did. No, not on the bamboo. I don't use the bamboo for. I use the resin printers for anything any blanks that I make. I don't like. There's no material that I particularly like, and compared to the resin, this stuff is pretty much drills, turns, and polishes. Pretty much no different than Alumilite, honestly. Someday I actually want to try and make an entire blank out of the resin 3D printed stuff and just turn one and just kind of see how it goes. It works really well. It's a love-hate relationship though, like I said. I think for the majority of people out there, getting like a Bamboo Lab type 3D printer is the smartest way to go, because you can run those things in your house. You know, maybe have an air filter in there, but it's not like terrible. Like I would not run a resin printer in my house. I would not recommend that to anybody. It smells. It smells our entire 4,000 square foot shop up. It's extremely messy. That's another reason why I wouldn't want to do it inside in my house. I get it everywhere. It's liquid. You got to clean all the prints. It's not like it comes out of the 3D printer finished. Like you have to go dunk it in like rubbing alcohol basically and clean off the prints and then UV cure them and another thing. It's a pain. Like it's not for everybody. And I don't want to make it sound absolutely horrible, but I got to be honest, I don't like doing it, and I only do it when I feel like I kind of need to do it kind of thing. So the bamboo thing, and I don't know, Mark, I don't know if there's a consensus, but I'm thinking so far for the materials that I've tried, PETG is the best that you got on the bamboo so far that I've found. I wouldn't even recommend using PLA. It's just terrible to turn. It gets gummy and it melts really fast and all that stuff. So drilling it's terrible, turning it's not good. It doesn't polish or sand well. PETG is reasonable, but if you compare that to the resin printer, it's not even a race, you know, or there's no comparison. So, and this stuff might be, I don't know, it just seems like there's a good amount of waste. So I think that resin might be a little bit more expensive over the long run, maybe, I would say. I haven't actually sat down and like compared the two, but kind kind of wasteful. Plus you have to deal with the alcohol thing, which is kind of wasteful. It's tough. So anyway, let's go to the next one. We're going to do some marble. So how did I do those? Let's go back a little ways here. When did I do the marble? I just want to look at my notes because, yeah, marble. Okay, so here we go. All right, so it looks like what I did was, I'm going to look at these notes too. Split cup, lemonade. When did we do these? It wasn't that long ago. Marble effects, 350 to 50. Now, one thing, again, you might notice all I've been using is liquid pigments, and I mean, I guess it might be worth trying out. Let's do it with the porcelain powder. This one's going to be marble. I don't think mica powders are going to work with this. It generally doesn't. If you're going to if the blank is opaque to begin with, which is what you're doing with this stuff, it's going to turn it opaque. The mica powder shouldn't work. It's definitely not going to be pearly. I wouldn't say. It may slightly alter the color, but I do think it would be worth trying. But I would also want to put some like transparent dye with it just to make sure that the color changes. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I'm going to have, on the next round, we'll have people pick colors, and you can tell me if you want to try a mica in there. This one we're going to do just the way that I did it before. So pretty much mostly just white, which in this case, I don't think that I need to do anything to it. I'm not adding anything. We're just using this marble powder. That should hopefully give us the marble look, like that white. And then what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a mix of, so I did use micas previously. This actually, we can use this. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's try it. Let's try the mica thing on this one and see if the darker micas actually darken, you know, the marble. If it doesn't really seem like it's working, because I should be able to see in the cup if it's actually doing anything. If it's not seeming to work, then I'm just going to add some like gray. I'm trying to think what I would add. Some sort of like a gray pigment to it. So let's see, did anybody? Yeah, and that's the thing, when you get in, there's not a lot of info. Like all the people that use resin printers, they're making these little like, I mean, the vast majority of people are making those little miniature tabletop game figurine things that they're looking for like absolute ridiculous detail. And frankly, I don't care about detail. We're going to turn it, you know? So a lot of the things that people do with these printers and how they use them and the settings and all these things, I don't care. I'm not going for any of that stuff. And it seems like the industry is going, every iteration of new printer is like more resolution and more, and I'm like, just give me less resolution and have it just work. How about you give me more colors in the resin itself? Because that's another problem, is you can't just buy stuff off the shelf that's these colors. I'm actually having to add dyes to the resin, the 3D printing resin, and it screws things up. It doesn't like that. You know, it's a UV cure resin, so it causes issues with that stuff. Okay, so we're doing marble. What we're going to do is we're going to mix up like, and I don't know how much resin I'm going to need with this stuff. So let's see here. I don't think that I need to put as much in there necessarily as I did for that experiment. I think if we just load up, I think if we go with that 50% number, so if I mix up 400 grams of resin, which I probably don't even need that much, I'm just going to put in about 200 grams of the powder. So 400, we're going to go, let's see, 200 grams of powder. And I mean, I'm going to go like 350 and 50. So 350 grams, I'm not doing anything to. It's the white part. And then 50, we're going to try the same mixture because it actually worked really well. I just don't think it's going to work because we're adding all this stuff in there. So I did like a mixture of the Ninja and then the silver gray, which, what did I do? 2 to 1, like a 2 to 1 ratio kind of thing. And again, these are the mica powders that I'm talking about. So the Eye Candy Ninja, and then so 2 parts of this to 1 part of the silver gray, just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. And they're a little bit different looking. So that's pretty much it. The other one, as far as I can tell, I'm just leaving it the powder. That's it. I don't need to put white dye or white pearly powder or any of that kind of stuff in there. It should, by adding the stuff, that should give us a marble look in theory. So let's see here. Welsh Piper, what's up? It turns and polished wonderfully? Wow. I don't like it, personally. Maybe certain types of PLA, because I know that there's like standard PLA and there's like PLA tough and PLA this and that. Maybe, you know, depending on which brand or whatever, but so far, it's not, I don't like it. It's not something that I don't turn a lot of pens, but, you know, I had to do some experiments and things with it. I didn't enjoy it personally. Again, knowing that I've got a resin printer that'll do whatever I want, and it does excellent. Another issue that I actually have with the regular filaments is sometimes they don't really like resin. If you're going to cast with them, it's not as good a bond in some cases as well. That can be also said though. One thing that I do want to mention: if you do the resin printing. Do I have the thing? A while ago, I was looking for, it's hard to find a black that's actually black. Or, you know, that's opaque and black. And so I was trying some different things out. I tried white and black. But this Anycubic ABS-like resin version 2, absolutely horrible. The blank blew up when I was cutting it on the table saw, that's real, like aluminum honeycomb blanks don't even do that. So this stuff, whatever the reason, it does not stick to Alumilite clear. But if you do the ABS-like Resin Pro 2 from Anycubic, it works great. So I don't know. This one was actually really surprising. I've never used any resin that was horrible. When you cast it. But this one, so the Pro ABS-like resin version 2, or yeah, Pro 2, that stuff's okay from Anycubic, but the standard version 2 is terrible. Frankly, my favorite still is just the Elegoo ABS. Now they've moved on. There's like ABS 2 and 3 and all this stuff. I haven't tried 2, but the ABS-like original version, it works fine. That's what I've been using forever. Now they've got the version 3.0. It works just the same. I don't see any difference. But some of them are harder and more brittle and may not adhere, so you do have to do some experiments with this stuff. But so far, the Elegoo stuff has been working good. And I would recommend go with the ABS-like from any brand. That stuff's going to be a little bit softer. A lot of the water washables are pretty brittle. They print really well, but they're generally kind of brittle. And then like your standard resins, those things are terrible. And even the tabletop people that are making miniatures hate that stuff because it just, like literally, if you drop it off the table, it breaks. And so they don't like it either. Like I said, frankly, I would personally, I'm invested at this point in these resin 3D printers, but I'd rather just pay somebody else to do it personally. Buy a lot of the stuff and be done, so I don't have to mess with the resin. But this new Saturn, this is the Saturn 4 Ultra. As much as I don't like the build plate because it's kind of hard to clean, everything else, because the vat actually tilts down, I've been getting really good results with this printer. So that one's pretty good. I would imagine the Mars 5 Ultra, this is the 4, and it works really well, but the 5 Ultra is probably good. The 4 Ultra is a good one. The biggest problem I have with the big printers though is you have to buy a lot more resin and mix it up. And if I'm making it, like if I'm adding dyes to it, then I got to dye a bunch of this stuff. And so like the Mars size for like round vertical type things, like the pinstripes and things like that, that works pretty well. Sometimes though you need a bigger build plate if you're making like a box or something like that though. But you can print them on their sides, which you probably want to do that anyway, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. Okay, so let's do the marble. So like I said, we're gonna do mostly just marble powder in the resin, and that's it. That should give us a marble look, I hope. And then the rest of it, we're gonna try the mica powder. I don't know. I know how to stop glitter from sinking in resin. You gotta wait. Well, some glitters just don't work, but it's always the same. You know, there's a certain temperature. What you're waiting for is the resin to thicken. But you basically just got to wait longer before you pour it. And that's the same solution to, you know, reducing color bleed if you're doing swirl stuff, or sometimes depending on what type of thing you're making, they'll call it marble effects. That's not what we're doing here, really. It's not exactly what we're doing. We're literally trying to make marble blanks. But yeah, so the key is always the temperature, and then everybody says, well, what temperature do I pour at? Well, it depends on your resin, because every resin is going to be totally different. And then your, you know, ambient temperature, honestly, there's a lot of factors that go into that calculation, because you also, what are you pouring it into? What kind of mold? How are you pouring it? The main thing is going to be like, what's the temperature in your shop? But you know, all these things depend. And so what I tell people, you know, I can give you a range. If you're using Alumilite Clear Slow specifically, and I think this would actually work for Alumilite Clear Regular, but that's it. Only this resin do these numbers actually work or have any meaning. If you're using Alumilite Clear Slow, generally the range, depending on the temperature in your shop, again, it's going to depend on what you're pouring it into and what you're trying to do. But typically 90 to 95 it can go all the way up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit is kind of the range typically. But what I would recommend that you do is whatever resin, you know, the way to figure it out in your shop conditions and all that stuff, mix up like 200 to 300 grams of resin, stir the mix the A and B together, and then literally just let it cure in the cup. Don't do anything, don't add anything into the cup. Just sit there. You know, let's assume that I've added and stirred up the A and the B in this. So for like however long you're sitting there, the working time, Just kind of keep stirring it and letting it pour, like roll off. Like look at what's going on with your resin. Have like a timer so you have an idea of time, but also you have to have a temperature gun. And just keep stirring it up, you know, looking at what is it doing, because what's happening is it's going to start thickening up, and eventually it's going to get so thick that it's solid, right? It's cured. So just keep looking at what temperature is it, and what characteristics, how thick is this stuff rolling off my stick, and let it fully cure. And know how long, you know, what temperature is it like cured, and I've waited too long to pour. And also it helps to kind of know how much time you generally have, but you need to mark down that experiment is only going to work, and it's going to give you some answers based on what is the shop temperature, the ambient temperature in your shop. Okay. It's not going to work if you do that experiment and it's, you know, 68 degrees in your shop like it is in mine right now. Those numbers and how everything works is not going to be the same as if it was 95 degrees in your shop. So you might have to redo that test. But if you do it, generally, if you can figure out a temperature for you know, what temperature you pour at based on the gun, so the resin temperature, it's ready to pour. If you can figure that out for 68 degrees, then all you need to do is just adjust, you know, up if it gets hotter. But that's the way to do it. It's a waste of resin, yes, but it is the best way and the only way that I know that you are going to understand what the characteristics are of your resin that you're working with. I just think it's the quickest way for you to figure out. And so once you've done that experiment, then you should have an idea of like, okay, this stuff's getting pretty thick at this temperature. Let me do an experiment without actually trying to make something starting at this temperature, you know, and then if you don't get good results, then you're going to have to wait longer and do another experiment. So that's the way to kind of figure out what temperature to pour at. All right, so part B, right? I didn't pour the part A in there yet, did I? I mean, I didn't pour the part B in. Yeah, 200. Okay. Talking and I'm not thinking. So 200 of part B. Very talkative today, obviously. Oh, I went way over. Whoops. We're going to add a little bit of part A back into this. I'm going to have to bust out another jug, another kit for. Usually I buy my Alumilite in like 10 gallons at a time, the 5-gallon jugs. But they ended up shipping me a bunch of bottles this time instead. I don't know what FedEx does, but I mean, half of the time the bottles, you know, whatever they sent leaks. It's really annoying. Oh yeah, Soraya. So, and that's a pretty good company. Also, just in general, they make a lot of good products. I don't like how thick their resin is, typically. But that is another way you can kind of mix things and all that. Like I said, honestly, the Elegoo ABS like 3.0 works fine. It's a good one. I don't have to mess with buying two different things and mixing it. Yeah, I think most people don't really think about like just mixing and staring at the resin. I don't think honestly, it's not like I did that. You know, I have done that here and there with especially with new resins, but it was something that I'm like, you know, the easiest way to figure out what's going on with this is people ask when to pour. Well, it helps to know when it's gonna set up, like you've waited too long and I blew it kind of thing. And so just blowing 300 grams of resin, and I would recommend doing a cup, because like 200 to 300 grams is a good amount for a lot of different things. If you're only mixing up like a super tiny amount, that's not telling you, well, what you need to do is something that's reflective of whatever you're going to actually do, I guess. And I think, you know, I just say 200 to 300 grams because, and you can maybe just do like 100 or whatever. But like somewhere, it needs to be something that you would actually be mixing up. That's going to be part of what you're doing. That's what you're like after with that experiment. So, you know, if all you're mixing up, if you got a bunch of 20-gram cups and that's what you're doing, depending on the type of thing you're making, then that is probably what I would recommend you do. But if you're, you know, doing 100, 200, 300 grams of resin at a time, then that's probably, 300 is probably too much. Like grab yourself like a 10-ounce cup, somewhere between like 100 to 200 grams total, part A and part B. That's plenty. You know, that'll give you an idea, and it's not as much resin, again, unless that's what you're doing. If one of your cups that you would be using, or in, you know, in your case, like if all you're doing is one cup, throwing glitter in it, and that's it, you're not doing multiple colors and all that stuff, then at that point, 300 grams is probably a little bit better idea of timing and stuff. But realistically though, the temperature and the viscosity in the cup should be the same regardless of how much resin you've mixed up. All right, I got to put my mask on here. We're going to put 200 grams of marble powder in. Is that right? Yeah, we're doing 50%, so I got to write that down. Okay. This is going to take a while if I use this thing. I'm going to just dump it out. I think that's probably where the dustiness is going to come. Yeah. I can see the powder going in the air, doing it this way. So just be careful if you're doing this kind of stuff and, you know, how you're dumping it out and all that. Now, one thing I could have done for this, I didn't really think about this, to alleviate the issue of the mica powder not working, you don't need to put marble powder in the entire blank. Or, you know, like in the entire cup or whatever. Like I could have broken off a cup of just resin, not added marble powder to it, and then you could use mica powders in your blanks. And it should, doing it that way, it should give you the mica powder's working effect, you know, or whatever. They should work. Brian's here. What's up, man? Plug on the bushings. Heck yeah. My pleasure. They work great. I love them. Telling you though, the adapter bushings, like if you turn pens, you need to buy a set of the adapter bushings. Like if you turn pens and turn between centers, you gotta get those. That is like the best thing, because there's so many kits that are like a one-off that you're like, and you can get the bushings for cheap and do whatever. Or the biggest one is if you've been turning with a mandrel forever, and you already have a bunch of bushings that are mandrel style, then you have to get the adapter thing. But if there's for things that you turn a lot of pens, of. Like if you turn a ton of cigar style kits, then just go buy the TBC bushing, you know, cigar set. Don't mess around. It's just not even worth it. Okay, so this, let's see here. I'm curious. So we're going to put, so I had 50 grams down. I think I'm going to go a little higher than that, maybe. Well, I don't know. We'll do like 55. I'm looking at how much is going in this cup, and let's do 60. I don't know. That's probably plenty. I'm going to do 60. The problem is these numbers kind of change because the numbers that I wrote down in my book, that's based on just resin. So whatever. I don't know how much we actually need. Now let's see what happens with this thing. So I'm going to use my 1/8 teaspoon. I don't know if I even need that much. 1/8. Yeah, whatever. We're going to do two ninjas to one silver gray. The problem is this, I don't know, this amount for the marble thing kind of did actually depend on the amount that I put in there also. So I don't know how these are going to turn out. If we're going to get, I don't think that we're going to get exactly the same results as we got with the marble blanks that we made that had no actual marble powder in it, just resin. So let's see what happens with this. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get like a pearly action in the final pens. I think this is going to, yeah, this is changing the color. Maybe didn't need as much as I put in there, but that's cool. So it's kind of like a graphite-y. Okay, so that worked. And it is a little bit pearly looking. I don't know. I don't know. This might work actually. Mica powders might work in this stuff. That is one thing that I never tried with any of them. Any of the fillers that we played with. Okay, so just to give you an idea, it's pretty thick, but it's still pretty runny right now. And I would imagine that we're not really very high temperature-wise. Yeah, 85. So we'll probably pour this at 95 again. I think that's what we did on the last one. And in this case, I am going to use a stir. I'm going to use, like, stir it up a little bit. I'm just going to use my, like, thin one and just kind of wiggle it around in there. Not try and make it like super swirly. Just kind of move it around just to kind of give it streaks more. What I find is comparing, you know, the two different types, where this is what I usually use for my, I think I could take this mask off. I think the marble powder's out of the air now. This one is what I use for like my color swirl, like the you know, the normal swirling blanks. But I use this in certain cases because what I find is having this little thing on the end, the flat part wiggling around, that gives you a little bit more swirling around. But if you use like a straight stick, depending on kind of how you do it, but you can kind of get more like lengthwise streaking going on and a little bit of swirling. But it tends to like pull the two colors up a little bit more. And so that's kind of that's the effect that we want with these marble blanks, you know. Yeah, it looks like everybody uses the TBC bushings. That's good. They are good. Turner's Warehouse sells some, and they're decent. That's about the only other one that I even know of. There are some not good ones out there too. But if you want the best, I mean, perfect perfect dimensions every single time. TBC bushings is what you want. And there's even like little, I mean, you know, one of the things, and I didn't even know this until I mentioned it. I was like, oh, it'd be neat on a 2-piece pen if there was some sort of marking or something on there to figure out which ones went together. And Brian was like, yeah, there is a marking. I was like, oh, yeah, well, that's great. That's a good thing. So I'll see if I can show you guys on the screen here, or on the camera. We got to wait a little while on this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to kind of like zoom. All right, so if you're looking at these bushings, let's try and get this like centered. So, and I need a little pointer. Let's go with my little stir stick thing here. So the insides, the way that this is cut on the insides, those look the same, right? On the other set, and this is for my cigars, there's like a little bit of a, I don't know if you guys can really see it, but in this one, there's like a little groove, like an angle. And so, and then the other, oh, it's not, I don't know if this is like really showing up. You can tell though, basically. And I didn't even realize that. I don't want to drop this in the resin. So these two have the same kind of little angle cut on the inside wall. Oh, for goodness sakes. I don't know. It's hard to tell on the camera, I think. But in person, you can definitely tell the difference between the two. And I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. It's even better when you like request a product feature from a company and they're like, it's already there. I'm ahead of you on that. I always like that. Oh, we're at 95. Look at that. All right. We're going to have a lot of extra resin on this one. I'm going to get that one a little bit more even there. There we go. All right, so we can definitely make a marble faux burl on this one. So, well, like I said, what I want to do is I'm just going to go in here and kind of swirl that up just a little bit, just to kind of give it that kind of streak that you would find in marble. Hopefully. That's the idea anyway. And I know it looks terrible on the top. I'm guessing that it doesn't look as terrible on the inside, hopefully. Okay, let me get a paper towel real quick. All right, so this guy's going to go in the pressure pot. I think I'll put it in this one. But I'm also going to get that. We're gonna make a faux burl real quick here. I think I'm going to do like a two-handed pour on this. I definitely find that's the best way to do if you're pouring into the faux burl thing. You got a wider mouth, so it's not as hard to hit the hole with two of them, you know. Oh, there's my. Okay, so get this down to the edge, get this guy pretty close. I guess it doesn't really need to be sideways, does it? I'm going for the full Monty here. I'm just going to top that off. And I'm going to also just give it a little bit of a stir kind of thing. Dump that into our pressure pot. Now, if we find out that turning these marble blanks is absolutely horrible, then I don't think anybody's going to be getting that faux burl, marble faux burl thing ever. 'Cause that's probably not going to be so much fun to turn. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right, now for the pressure pot, if anybody is wondering about the pressure pot numbers and all that kind of stuff, I have a feeling that the cure time, you know, it seems like the working time is inhibited by adding all this material, this extra, you know, filler stuff, the marble powder. And so I would venture a guess that you would want to leave this in the pressure pot a little bit longer than you normally would. And so for Alumilite Clear Slow, the minimum, well, that was weird. I saw something out of the corner of my eye and it looked like a person. That was crazy. For Alumilite Clear Slow, the minimum I would say is like 4 hours for one of those Gatling molds type things. Especially, it kind of depends on the temperature in your shop and a few things, but I think that 4 hours is a good amount of time to leave this thing in there. It doesn't get overly hot. It's not a big mass. If I'm doing a brick pour like this, just because it's all one big kind of mass, and about 500 or 600 grams, for those things 2 hours is fine typically under pressure. For Alumilite Clear Slow. For other random epoxies and different stuff, I mean, they can range anywhere from honestly 12 minutes to a week that you would need to leave it under pressure. Alumilite's deep pour, it's a good resin to use. It turns well and whatever. And if you need a really long working time, it's got a 2-hour working time, but you're going to have to leave stuff in the pressure pot for at least 2 days. With that one, otherwise it will be still soft. And then like things like Liquid Diamonds or Total Boat, or I'm not 100% sure on Total Boat, but I'm pretty sure it falls into the category. Amazing Clearcast Plus, or just ACC from Alumilite. Those things all need to be like kind of, I generally say like just leave it overnight. It'll be good. So in this case, I would probably want to leave this in here for like, I don't know, like 6 hours might be smart, minimum on that. I mean, what I'm probably going to do is just leave it in there overnight. I'm just going to not worry about it. Then I'm absolutely sure, but that's the problem. I really actually just don't know. I have no clue how long it's going to take. It does appear that it is being somewhat inhibited a little bit, though. So, like it's taking longer, it seems like, to get to the same temperature as a cup that just had resin in it, no marble powder. So I don't know. I would say if you do this with Alumilite Clear Slow, if you leave it overnight, guaranteed it's set, it's done, it's good. 6 to 8 hours is probably plenty. Anything less than that, and you may be pulling it too early. And if you pull it too early, what ends up happening is the way pressure pots work, the pressure collapses the air bubbles. It basically shrinks them to a very small size. And once the resin cures, effectively the bubbles are gone. They're held in place. They're not going to expand again. You will see bubbles on the surface, but that's because it's not fully encapsulated by the solid material. Bubbles that are like halfway in the material, half of it's going to grow back basically. So what happens is if the resin's still soft and you release the pressure, so pull it out too early, what happens is the bubbles will just grow right back. So you effectively haven't done anything. So you want to make sure that you leave the stuff, under pressure long enough. And generally the demold, a lot of resins will have a demold time on the jug, for the instructions for your resin. Generally, that's going to be whatever the pressure pot time should be. But it could change depending on if you're casting very, very small amounts of resin, that number is going to change drastically. If all I was casting was like a tube-in pen blank, so like, if you're doing like a label blank with these little guys, like you got to leave them in for Alumilite Clear Slow, which I wouldn't even recommend using Alumilite Clear Slow for this, but you would have to leave it in overnight for sure. And I would recommend heating the pressure pot on top of that. For very large things, a lot of times you can get away with a little bit less time in the pressure pot, being able to pull it a little faster. So it just kind of depends. Typically, whatever the demold time is, they'll tell you based on the temperature, the ambient temperature in your shop, and how much resin they're talking about, just to let you know. It should give you an idea. All right, so we got some porcelain blanks. Does anybody want to pick any colors? Do the super chat if you want to pick a color. Should have started that earlier, mentioned it. The woodpecker pen mandrel. I haven't seen that. I just don't like pen mandrels. I like to work on one at a time, personally, and I don't know. I've had so many bad. I had such a bad time with the mandrels that I use that I'm just like, I don't need one. I don't like them. So I'm not saying they're all bad, but at this point, I got all the bushings that I need, so I wouldn't go back anyway, but I just, no thanks. Yeah, I'm interested to see how these things turn. I think I might have overdone it on the amount of how dark. I don't know. I really thought that it was going to overtake the mica powder more, being kind of opaque, but I mean it darkened up pretty good. When we did the marble blanks before, somehow I managed to pretty much nail the perfect amount. If you're just talking about just resin. So obviously we weren't doing marble powder.
Shut up and take my money.
I did a pretty good job of getting it to like the right darkness, because if it's too light, it doesn't really show up in the blanks. There's two things. You need to have the right color, like darkness of the blackish side of things. the gray or whatever color. But then you also have to pour the right amount, and it's very minimal kind of thing, just to get little streaks like you want. It was crazy, like making fairly slight modifications to that recipe and the amount and how I pour. Like the annoying thing is like how you pour the gray part can really affect how the blanks look. It's hard to thread the needle on those things a little bit. Dark red, would like to see if something like granite can be achieved. I don't know if granite will work. So we're doing porcelain, by the way, on this one. We're doing the porcelain powder just to let everybody know. Shouldn't be significantly different, I don't think. But I just want to make sure everybody knows. Porcelain, yeah, granite. So dark red. So Mark, do you want to try mica powder? I'm guessing not, because you want it to look kind of rockish. I've got some ideas for dark red. And again, we don't even need to use opaque pigments in this case. We can just use the Alumilite dyes, which are typically totally transparent, like the red, like most of them are anyway. The red, blue, green, purple. Purple's so dark that it can kind of be opaque. Yellow, orange,
shut up and take my money.
Green. Like pretty much all the colors are see-through except, and I'm talking about Alumilite dye, except for white, black, and fluorescence. Blue, if you added enough, so like the standard blue, not the ocean blue, if you added enough of the blue, it's so dark that it can pass as kind of opaque, but the truth is it's really semi-translucent, not totally opaque. And same goes with green, can be pretty dark, and then purple. But yellow, orange, red, ocean blue, those ones are like it'd be like stained glass, like totally see-through. So let me know what you think. Leave that up to you. Okay. A nice forest green. Sweet. All right, let's see, forest. I've got, I don't really have a forest green offhand. So let's go with, just to change things up just a little bit, I'm pretty sure that we are going to get totally opaque blanks using transparent dyes. So let's just run that experiment using the transparent dyes. If you want opaque blanks in normal, resin, clear resins, your pigments, the opaque pigments, divine pigments, generally these guys are going to be opaque. Some need to be added, you need to add more than others in some cases to make it opaque, but definitely not transparent. So the divine pigments are good. And I think honestly they're a nice dark red. We can add a little bit of black to this, but the brick red is pretty dark, but we can add a little bit more. I'm sorry, we're not using divine. We'll have to, we'll make up some colors using the Alumilite pigments. So we got forest green, let's see here. Same thing, we'll just kind of darken the green there. And then, yeah. I have a feeling that this porcelain powder is going to give us very similar results to the talc. I think that there's not much difference between those two. And again, I don't think Alumilite actually sells porcelain powder anymore on their website. I bought that probably 8 years ago or something like that. And a lot of changes have happened at Alumilite. I'm sure you can find a porcelain powder for casting somewhere online. Amazon probably has it. But I would imagine that talc or cornstarch is just cheaper. So we'll have to see what the results are. But I mean, if it pretty much operates the same way, then I can't really imagine why you would go with porcelain. Oh, I need the mask. I was going to put the mask away, but we need it. All right, so let's do a 2-color. I might actually throw in one other color that I choose in with those. We got red and green. Maybe we'll just go with the porcelain, actually. Let's just do that. We'll do a 3-color, just the porcelain. Don't add anything else to it. And then we'll do forest green and a dark red. That sounds like a pretty cool one. It'll be kind of Christmassy anyway. So let's see here. Let's switch to this overhead view. A little bit of a long one today, guys, but I talked a lot and we did 3 different things. So again, I'm just going to mix up 400 grams. Probably don't need that much, but I'm going to put in 200 of the porcelain powder. Pretty much the same thing that we did on the last one. And then we've got 3 colors, and we can probably just do even amounts. So it's about 133 for each one. So we started watching, we busted out the Harry Potter movies. So we knocked out number 1 last night. So that's fun. Like I said, I didn't watch any of them last year. I don't know. I just was like, whatever. Like I kind of missed it. Timing was over. And then it was like New Year's came and went. And I'm like, I'm not going to start these now. So I think I was watching some other stuff. I think last year I actually watched a lot of the James Bond movies. We have all of those too. Let's see here. Plain porcelain, we're doing dark red. And to get dark red and green, there's lots of different mixes and all this stuff, but basically to darken something up, you can just add black. How much will, alter how dark it gets. Eventually you'll add too much and it'll just be black, but and if you want to lighten colors, you can add white. There's a lot of, that's very simple, and it's not really the entire, or maybe even not even the most proper way of doing things in some cases, but generally, if you just need to darken things a little bit, add a little bit of black. If you need to lighten it, add a little white, and you should be pretty good. Should be plenty good to kind of just adjust things. All right, so I need to get a mixing cup here. Okay. And we really don't necessarily need to make or add a ton of the dye, probably. Again, it's kind of going to be the same thing. The more you add, the more... Oh, the porcelain did dull it more. I don't think we're going to get these to look like granite, but I do think we're probably going to get similar effects as the talc, which produced this. And this is obviously, we didn't polish. So I think it's going to kind of dull the color. So I'm actually going to go for a little bit less color in these things. And then we'll kind of see, what we get. The problem is granite is like speckled stuff. And we're definitely not going to get that effect. You can't really do that with a liquid. But it might be, kind of rockish though. If we don't add too much, it'll be a kind of a dull color. So basically, I'm just going to add drops until I'm happy, and we'll just have to kind of come back to rewatch the video to figure out what I actually did. If I want to remake them. Let's see if we have enough to, yeah, I think we actually do. Gotta buy more resin. All right, we got 200. And $200. right. Get this stirred up, then we'll add our porcelain powder. Oh, thanks, Tesha. Yeah, I really like that pen. I like that muted. I mean, you know, number one, I like the look of the, like, kind of matte, you know, not glossy polish. Anyway, let's see, where did I put that pen? There it is. Nope, that's not it. Where did I put it? Oh, it's sitting right next to me. Well, number one, you guys pick good colors, but I like how it's just a little bit muted, but I really like the matte finish on these things. It just goes well together. I did my first matte finish, like honestly, not that long ago. When I, maybe like a couple years ago, where I like meant to do that, and that was what I was going for, and I was like, wow, it feels different in your hand compared to a gloss pen. And I really like it. It kind of almost feels softer. It's weird. Almost feels warmer even in your hand. Almost like more of a natural product. Kind of like, I don't know. Kind of weird. Barb, what's going on? Okay, so we need, well, first I need to put the stuff in there. Let's get our porcelain powder in there. Got my mask on. I'm going to get, I don't really want to dump it out again. Oh shoot, I don't have that big scoop thing. We'll just use, I'm going to use like a tablespoon, a big scooper. This definitely reduces the amount of like powder that it generates. If you just dump it out, it just, man, I mean, I could just see a cloud in front of my face. So 200 grams is going to be a lot of this stuff. I may have to stop at 100 because I don't know if I have 200 grams of this stuff anyway. We're gonna try 100 and see. 108. Let me just see how thick it is. What did we do on the other ones? Did I do 50%? 27. Oh. Yeah, 50. Huh. Well, truth is, I'm probably not going to be using this stuff ever again anyway, so we'll just dump it all in. Looks like I may be able to get to 200 here. I'm just going to take everything. So, you know, again, this is, and I don't know if I need to put 200 grams in here, but trying to do kind of similar. Obviously, this is not as heavy as the marble powder, because I had plenty of marble powder to get to 200. So we're at about 180. That's all we got, 185. So I'm going to mark that down. Oh, no, that's not what am I doing here? Okay. I can chuck that thing, stir this in. So again, I don't know how much I paid for that porcelain powder stuff. Probably wasn't that cheap, considering it's just like dust, but. Christmas festivities, that's fun. Yeah, like I said, I really think that the porcelain powder stuff is much more similar to the talc. And it kind of makes sense. It's, you know, those are, I mean, to be honest, I don't know. Is porcelain made out of talc? Does anybody know? Like, it may literally be just talcum powder. Let's, that would be hilarious. What is, I mean, what is, porcelain? Okay, so no, probably not. I don't see anything about. Talc is. Okay, so talc and porcelain are different things, but they're very similar. You know, they're made up of you know, a bunch of minerals. I mean, they're all kind of the same. Even marble technically is not really. Now, one thing actually that I didn't really that isn't being factored in here is how fine is the powder. Like, you know, if you grind up marble powder into the same exact, you know, fineness, whatever, particle size as the, you know, talc or porcelain powder, they may all literally just be exactly the same kind of thing. That's something that I didn't really think about. I don't know. Lots of things to think about, guys. Lots of things. All right, so we need 133 or so. It's probably going to be actually more like 150. I'm going to go 150. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot left over. Probably could have mixed up 300 grams. So when we were doing the talc and or either one and or cornstarch, what I found was I could fill a Gatling mold by mixing up 300 grams of resin and adding 150 grams of, you know, either talc or cornstarch. So we got 150 in each of those cups, and that seems like a lot less than what's in this mixing cup here. Let's see. $280, yeah. So 280 divided by 2. Let's see here. Let's see how much we can. So I've got 130 left over. Let's divide that by 3. So I can add 40, about 40 more grams to each one of these guys. 43 technically. And that should give us equal amounts in each cup. Not that we need it, but okay. So I'm just going to leave the mixing cup is just the porcelain powder, and we'll do the colors in here. So I'm going to do like 2 drops of red, and then I'm going to drop a drop of black. We're just going to see how this works. That might be extremely dark. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. But we can keep on adding red. A little bit more in like the cranberry area. Kind of in the cranberry zone right now, or something. Plumish cranberry. So let's add a little bit more red to this. I'm going to add 2 drops more of the red. Try and bring it back a little bit more where we want it, hopefully. I don't know. Still a little bit on the purple zone. 2 more. Getting there. It's getting a little bit more in the red. So we're at 6, I think, 8. I think next time I'm just going to put like a toothpick amount of black, which is really what I really needed to do. That's looking pretty good now. It's reasonable. It's kind of a nice dull red. So let's try and see what we can do with the green now to get a little bit of a forest green. So I'm going to go with 2 drops of green, and we're going to just put, well, let's just see what that looks like first. Very muted. We're going to need a lot more green. So again, this stuff definitely, the porcelain powder definitely like desaturates the color. So we'll do 2 more greens. See where that takes us. Still kind of more minty. Let's put in a drop of black here. We'll just do a very small drop of black. Ooh, that's getting definitely more foresty right there. Is it like amazing, perfect forest green? I don't know. Maybe do a little bit more green, maybe even another drop of black. Put 2 more greens in there. I think I'm going to actually put another drop of black in this one. I did a really small one the first time. Let's see if we can darken that up a little bit more. That's looking pretty good. I mean, we could keep going all day, but I think that's kind of forest green. All right, I'm gonna clean. I got dye all over my hands. That generally tends to end up all over everything eventually, so I'm just gonna take some acetone, wipe that off where I can. All right, so let's see what temperature we're at here in all these cups. Oh, that one's already at 96. Look at that. What is this one at? 97. Huh. That's crazy. All right, well, let's pour it. You guys ready for this? It's definitely thick. I think if I was going to name this, I would call it Vintage Christmas. And on this one, we're going to use the stir stick. Because why not, right? Oh, overflow. Okay. This one's going to be a messy stir. the super thick ones are always really messy. That's not so messy. I definitely like these colors. They're really neat, you know. I don't, you know, is it granite? No. I don't think I would say that these are going to look like granite, but I do like that dulled, you know, kind of color that these things. Now, don't worry about the tops. It looks all, you know, bleeded together and gross. What is that? There's like a hair or something in this. What the heck? It ain't my hair, I'll tell you that. Where did that come from? So anyway, the top looks all gross and muddy, but it's not going to look like that on the inside, I don't think. That's usually what it looks like, and they usually do not look that gross on the insides. So what do you guys think? Kind of cool. Kind of cool. I'm going to put this one in here. There we go. Okay. Uh-oh. I don't know if it's still streaming or not. It says we're live. So I don't think I'm gonna mess with trying to. I'm gonna clean up my stir sticks. This one, we're gonna have a lot of leftover, but it's kind of setting up on me. Waited a little bit too long. Let's see if we still. Oh, you guys are still there. I don't know, something weird happened to my browser, like quit working. I figured I would just keep going. Find out later. So let me clean up these stir sticks really quickly. And then we'll talk about that pour. That was pretty good. I really like those colors. Those are going to probably make some pretty cool looking pens. I hope the marble works out the way that I was hoping. You know, it would be a big shame if the marble powder did not produce a better looking marble blank than the ones that we made before, which is resin. That would be disappointing. You know, so I don't know. Let's see. Let's get back to this screen. So, I guess I could pour these. I already filled the. I don't have any more pressure pots. It's kind of a big part of the problem here. I need to use this other one tonight because I got to, like I said, one of the things that's been on the list is making another Gatling mold because that one is getting kind of crusty. So I got to make another one of those tonight. But anyway, I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? That was kind of fun to do another round of those kind of, you know, test a different type of filler. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of like, what do I think about this? So I don't think that I would use, so at this point, you know, we've tried talc and / cornstarch, which I would kind of lump together as kind of the same type of thing. We did micro balloons and now we've done porcelain and marble. And so having, you know, using out of all of those types of things, I still go back to, if I was going to add a filler, I would probably just go with cornstarch because it's by far going to be, I'm guessing, I haven't done research on this, but it's got to be the cheapest, you know, out of all these things. I would imagine. I think you could buy like a 50-pound bag of that stuff and it would probably be like $30 or something. You know, I don't know. I think you could find it really cheap, especially if you were buying it in bulk. I think it'd be a lot more difficult to find like marble powder or porcelain powder. Those are just a little bit less common anyway. The micro balloons are out there. I'm pretty sure that stuff's fairly expensive and I didn't see the point, so I'm just going to throw the micro balloons completely out. But, you know, out of all of them, the biggest benefits, we'll have to see how these things turn. I'm thinking the porcelain's going to be no big deal. The marble even, I think it's actually going to be reasonably fine to turn. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near like seashells or any of that stuff. But I think out of the three, I think that you got a lot of benefits from the corn powder, cornstarch, or the talc. It actually made the material a little bit softer and turned, I would actually say, a little better, really. So, you know, there's some benefits, there's some drawbacks. to all these different things. But, you know, depending on what you're like trying to do, if you have a specific need, some of these things might, you know, be the ticket for you. So we'll have to kind of see next week how they turn out. I don't know. So let's see. Did I miss anything here? Kim says porcelain powder is used to make artificial teeth. We should have made some artificial teeth. Yeah, the kind of grapey zone sucks. It is kind of crazy. So, and that was the same, like, the porcelain powder was extremely similar. I mean, if you put porcelain powder in front of me and like cornstarch, I don't think I could tell. I mean, I don't want to taste it or do that, but I don't really think that there would be a whole lot of difference. Definitely no difference between the talc. There was a little bit of difference between cornstarch and talc. Like physically they looked a little bit different. So I think talc versus porcelain, I would pick talc all day. And I think that stuff's a lot cheaper online. But anyway, pretty cool. So it's about lunchtime. So next week we'll turn these guys up. Let's see. Wait, what's going on here? Hold on a minute, guys. I got to just double check and make sure I know what's happening. Yeah, 20th. Right? 21st. Yeah, so next week we'll turn these guys up.
Take my money.
We should miss, yeah. So we shouldn't have any breaks or any misses. I don't think because of the holidays. I should be broadcasting every one of these days, most likely. Why is this calendar thing always messed up? Jeez. Hold on a minute. Okay. Yeah, so next week we'll turn those guys up, see what's going on. I'll probably pre-turn the blue and yellow ones, just turn them down. Just to see what we kind of, what they look like. I'm really guessing. So on those ones, we didn't stir them up or anything like that. It'll be kind of interesting to see what they look like, but I could kind of see some green here and there, even though we didn't stir them. So I'm kind of guessing they're not going to be super amazing. I don't know. Let's see. Jamie, what's up, man? Hey, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Let's see here. What happened here? Sorry, I was reading other comments. What are you up to, Jamie? You're a little bit late. It's cool. Typically, I would be done by now, but we did a long one today. Lots of experiments to do. So we did marble powder, we did porcelain powder, and then we did an experiment with each one of those trying to see if we could fix the color bleed issue that we've been kind of playing with the blue and yellow. I don't have high hopes for that, but with the marble powder, we tried to recreate like the marble, like an actual like marble slab look. So it'll be kind of cool to see what happens. And we did it ended up being like kind of a Christmassy look on the porcelain powder. So pretty cool, guys. Like I said, if you want to, get into any of these things, if you think any of them will work, like I said, I think that you're probably better off just going with the cheap stuff and getting like a cornstarch or talc. It's probably going to work pretty good, but the marble powder might have I have a feeling it's going to feel colder and a little bit different. So it should be kind of interesting to see next week. I don't need to make another blank for you. No, well, we've only been broadcasting for 2 hours and 45 minutes at this point. So I think I need to go get some lunch. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Thanks to everybody that super chatted. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week and we'll see what the results are of these experiments. Hopefully we'll get some good pens out of them. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be kind of interesting. Bare minimum, hopefully we'll learn something, interesting to use this for, or not to use it at all because it's terrible or something like that. I like to get definitive kind of answers where it's going to be good for this or it's just walk away. Just walk away right now. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for joining the fun tonight, and I'll see